Thanks for checking out the Open Sky Fitness Podcast with Rob Dione. Rob is a personal trainer certified by the National Academy of Sports Medicine. He's a corrective exercise specialist and a performance enhancement specialist. Rob is also a level 1 CrossFit instructor, but he is not a doctor. If you got any injuries or medical issues, go see a physician. And when it comes to working out, it's always best to have a trainer watch your technique to get you started. So be careful, don't sue us, and enjoy the podcast. All right, let's do this thing.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Open Sky Fitness Podcast. I'm Rob Dione, and I'm here to tell you that no matter where you are in your life, you can always be healthier. And we're here to help you get there. Okay guys, so if you have questions about your own health and fitness, or if you have questions that you want us to ask our guests for you, write us on Twitter and Instagram at Open Sky Fitness with the hashtag AskOpenSky. You can also email me, rob@openskyfitness.com, or go to openskyfitness.com and you can leave a voice memo right there on the tab on the right side. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have a fantastic show for you today. I had a conversation with a woman named Christine Hronec. Now, Christine is the woman behind GageGirlTraining.com. She's also behind the GageLife.com. She's developed nutrition plans. She's developed supplements like protein shakes at GageLife.com. But the reason I wanted to bring her on the show today is because she's an expert in body types. It's something that she talks about quite a bit on her YouTube channel. She has a very successful YouTube channel, and she's also, obviously her website. She's spoken on multiple different platforms, some of which, Fox News. I mean, Muscle and Fitness, hers. Like she's been, running the gamut on a lot of these different media outlets, right? She's been sharing a ton of information. But, Devin and I did an episode a long time ago talking about body types, and we actually get quite a bit of positive feedback still to this day. I mean, it's probably like 3 years ago more that we did this body type episode, and people really enjoyed that, talking about the difference between an ectomorph, a mesomorph, and an endomorph. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, then you're going to love this episode because we dive into that, and understanding your body type, it can be really kind of soothing, for lack of a better word, for someone who doesn't know what the capacity of their body type is. And so if you're a bigger person and you want to look like a runway model, well, you might not have that body type. And so to aim for that when you're doing your nutrition planning, when you're doing your workout planning, and to aim for that as a realistic goal might be setting yourself up for a whole bunch of heartache. And so that's a part of the conversation that we talk about today with Christine. And I'm super excited to share that. We also talk about macronutrients. We talk about training styles. We talk about recommended training styles depending on your body types. We talk about the paleo diet, the keto diet. We dive into everything, body fat, what you should be looking for, intermittent fasting, all that stuff. So I'm really looking forward to sharing this conversation with you guys and hearing what your thoughts are on it. So I'm not gonna belabor that. I'm gonna jump right in. So here we are, conversation with Christine Hronec. All right, guys, I have Christine Hronec on the line right now. Christine holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in chemical and biological engineering from Drexel University. Christine got her start as a chemical engineer at a Fortune 100 company, DuPont. After 6 years at DuPont, Christine was seeking a new position where she could have a little more autonomy in a smaller startup company. From there, she experimented in running marathons and competing in physique competitions, and Christine started building her following on YouTube, Instagram, and if you all remember, Periscope. Since then, she's built multiple online science-backed nutrition plans and fitness programs, which serve as a viable resource for a wide range of individuals, from Olympic athletes and fitness competitors to those who just want to lose 100 pounds or so. Christine has helped over 30,000 individuals successfully overturn health ailments, reach weight loss goals, and grasp a better understanding of their personal health. Now, maybe you've seen her on Forbes, maybe OK Magazine, Flex Magazine, The Huffington Post, on CBS, Fox News, Muscle and Fitness, hers, and Extra TV. She's been pretty much everywhere lately. So, Christine, I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today and share it with our audience. So thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Rob.
Of course. So your background was obviously a little more science-based. You had like a normal job. You weren't this online fitness sensation. You kind of started in the real world and then transitioned. Tell us what that was like. Like, did you mean to do that? Were you intentionally trying to grow an online business? Or was that something you kind of just fell into and it started to work?
I kind of fell into it. I started out as a chemical engineer doing the 9 to 5, but once I started moving on to startup companies, I really found myself as an entrepreneur. I really loved the autonomy. I loved just, being more results oriented. I loved having your opinion matter. And from there, I actually became a founding partner in a contract manufacturing company where we manufactured dietary supplements. And I actually built the plant, got it FDA registered, CGMP certified, and worked and functioned as a food scientist and formulated all kinds of supplements, probably thousands of products for over 7 years before I branched out and started, drinking the Kool-Aid for myself and being like, I wonder if I could do this too, and really like take my physique to the next level. And once I started doing that, I started documenting it on Instagram. Like this was, 2012. And everyone just asked questions. It was very organic. And before I knew it, by 2013, Gauge Girl Training was founded, and I'm actually celebrating my 7th anniversary of being an online nutritionist.
Wow. Congratulations. And that was,
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. You were right there in the beginning. You were right there in the beginning of the Instagram trend. If I remember, Instagram started like 2011, 2012, if I'm correct.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's correct.
Yeah, so it was not that it's easier, because you do have to put out content, you have to put out stuff that people are interested in hearing about and learning about. But that was a great time. I mean, you couldn't have asked for a better platform for somebody in the fitness and nutrition realm to kind of start to shine.
Not at all. Yeah, it was wonderful. Very organic at the time.
So what was the process for you? So you mentioned that you were kind of sharing your journey with people on Instagram. What was your journey? What were you looking to try to achieve?
So I always wanted to have six-pack abs, and I always admired Janet Jackson's abs. And all through college, all through my teens, I could never get there. I was all into distance running. I convinced myself that if one day I ran a marathon, that I would have abs. I didn't. And it just irritated the crap out of me because I consider myself a really hard worker. I will stick to something, but I just didn't know what the heck I was doing. And it wasn't until I got really serious about the nutrition, started applying some real science to it, and said, okay, what do I need to be doing? What areas am I doing it wrong? And it's just something I needed to prove to myself that I could do. And then once I did, it becomes very addictive. I'm not sure if you've ever done fitness competitions or anything like that, but it's a fun way to challenge yourself.
I have actually. When I turned 36 years old, I decided I wanted to give it a shot. So I did. Awesome. I ended up doing back-to-back 2 different fitness competitions, men's physique competitions.
Nice.
And I was lucky. I took 5th in one and 1st place in another, and that was good. For myself personally, because I'm a trainer and a health coach, I didn't find it to be the most healthy lifestyle, especially, and when you watch everybody getting ready to go on stage, they're eating like Twix bars and candy and getting their carbs in to get their swole on right before competition, and then afterwards, which I find really hilarious, is everybody goes and eats pizza and donuts and they just like destroy themselves.
Exactly.
But I'm curious because you still want to compete, or you still do compete.
I don't currently compete anymore. I'm not sure if it's something I'm going to revisit. It is a little like on the extreme side for me. And, I'm not writing it off because, I'm never say never, but for now, that part of those competition days are kind of off the table for the time being.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm curious because you were saying how you struggled. You're running marathons. You wanted to see the 6-pack. And obviously, I think you were probably a little bit curious to see what your body was capable of.
Exactly.
And I'm curious to hear what it took. Like if you were to give it a breakdown, like what did it take for you to get there? If you're going to step on stage physique, your body fat is down to the lowest it's probably ever been in your life. You have probably more muscle mass than you've ever had in your life on your body. So what did that take?
It takes the most discipline you will ever have to apply in your life. It probably took me, because it's so many women, especially, we're so familiar with dieting, but competing is different. I tell my clients, because I still train women for competitions, I said, you're no longer just a chick on a diet. You're an athlete in training. Yeah. It's not like, what's my mood today? Oh, am I going to eat that? It's like, no, your food, your eating becomes very robotic. The training comes very robotic. It has to get done no matter what. It's like a second job. And the degree of seriousness, I mean, you'll go months and months and months and months without ever having a drink. It's just, it takes everything. It takes everything. The days you don't feel like it, and it doesn't matter. But I love that discipline, and it taught me a lot about myself through that process. And, it's amazing to see what your body can do when you're focused.
Were you I know you did marathoning, so you're a little more maybe into the cardio world, but were you lifting prior? Were you an athlete in that sense leading up to it?
Not really. No, I was a distance runner. I did track, I did cross country, but I was not really big into the weights. I really started getting into the weights around between 2010 and 2012, was dabbling in it, but then got really serious once I started training for a fitness competition.
Do you think, now I know that you talk quite a bit on your YouTube channel, you mentioned body types, like knowing your body type, creating expectations around what you're capable of really achieving with the body type that you were given. Tell us what the different body types are. And I'm wondering, is your body type the kind of body type that's basically right in line with somebody who wants to compete in a physique competition, or did you struggle?
I think any body type is going to have a unique set of struggles for contest prep. So there's the ectomorph, which is somebody who's naturally lean, struggles to build muscle. There's the mesomorph like myself, can gain weight easily, can lose it pretty easily. And I think a lot of mesomorphs have a tendency to do quite well in fitness competition. And then there's also the endomorphs who gain muscle easily, but they really struggle to lose fat. And everyone has like their unique set of challenges. So I've coached ectomorph clients who have won competitions, but they really struggle to gain that muscle. They have to eat substantially more. They really have to have their total daily energy expenditure dialed in and not overdo it on the cardio. For someone like myself as a mesomorph, it was still a struggle because I needed to dial everything in exactly to where it needed to be. I have a hearty appetite personally. And, when you're tracking those macros and it doesn't add up, it's just like you have to stay within where you need to be. I mean, down to the calorie, because I remember there were a couple times I'm like, I'm all right, I'll be okay. But it's like, no, like you have to follow the macros, especially when you're doing a competition where you have a time-sensitive fat loss goal. And I think that's the caveat here. It's a time-sensitive goal. For a general lifestyle, I don't think you need to be as extreme. However, when you have a time-sensitive goal, you're trying to lose a certain amount of body fat. And for women, I remember one of my business partners was training for a men's physique competition at the same time I was training. I used to be so frustrated that he could do 30 minutes of cardio and I have to do an hour of cardio twice a day just because it's so much harder for women to drop fat.
Yeah. And you brought up a couple things that, that I definitely want to touch base with you in this conversation, which is calories and macros. You alluded to that calories and macros are very important when doing a competition because it's really all about being as specific as possible and executing the game plan. Talk about why calories and macros are so important, but then also is that important for the average person, like the person who just needs to change the lifestyle?
The answer is yes. It is important for people who need to change their lifestyle because counting calories alone is a very one-dimensional approach to nutrition. Now, yes, you do need to be in a caloric deficit, and yes, you need to be dialing in your total caloric content. However, if you're not dialing in the macros, the foods that you consume have a different biological and chemical breakdown once you consume them. So consuming 1,500 calories of carbs is not going to behave the same way as 1,500 calories of a balance of some proteins, fats, and carbs, or all fats and carbs. So it's going to make a difference when you have a body composition goal. So fat loss is one of the hardest goals, because if someone just wanted to lose weight, I can make anybody just lose weight, get smaller on the scale. But when you're trying to drop that fat, keep that muscle, it's substantially harder. And for anyone who has a very specific body composition goal, you really have to pay attention to macros. And this is a big wake-up call for a lot of women, as we've been so programmed to just be concerned with that number on the scale and get validation from it. But just because you weigh a certain amount, you can look skinny fat, you can still have cellulite, you may not have that real tightness and tone to your body that you're really looking for. And I spend so much energy talking to women, being like, look, the scale doesn't matter. Let's look at how your measurements are changing. Let's look at how much stronger you're getting. Let's look at all these other factors that don't have anything to do with the scale.
Are there specific correlations between body types, ecto, meso, endomorphs, and macronutrient ratios or calorie intakes, or is it individualized for each individual person? Or does certain people fit into certain categories and it tends to work best? Maybe high carb for ectomorphs and, higher fat for endomorphs or something?
The answer is yes. There are specific macronutrient ratios that work best for the different body types. However, there are some caveats, and that caveat is how somebody responds to carbohydrates. I actually just put a quiz on my YouTube channel about having people assess their carb tolerance, because you can have a naturally endomorph style body where you just are naturally store more of your mass in your glutes, in your hips, in the lower half, but you may not necessarily have an issue with carbs. And a lot of people arbitrarily just want to throw all the endomorphs towards keto, and you don't necessarily need to do that. So it can kind of be a little bit split for the mesomorphs and endomorphs, depending on your carb tolerance level. And what I mean by that is some people, when they consume carbs, they are not able to shuttle the glucose into their cells effectively because they have insulin resistance. And when that happens, it's not going to be the best source of energy for those people. And as a result of that, going higher fat for a certain amount of time could be very beneficial for those individuals.
How do they know if they're having insulin resistance? How do they know if carbs aren't right for them?
A perfect example would be, when you consume carbs, do you feel tired, bloated, lethargic? When you ate something, do you still feel hungry immediately after and you're not satisfied? That's a true sign of insulin resistance, because the end user of all of that energy is your cells. And if that glucose is not able to be shuttled into that cell because the insulin, which is the messenger hormone, is not able to shuttle it in there, you're actually starving on a cellular level. Now, that's one, kind of anecdotal way you can tell. Another way you can tell for sure is you can get your blood, you can do some blood testing and get your A1C levels tested in your blood, and that's going to be a little bit more specific.
Got it. So what would somebody, let's say they've gotten their A1Cs back, because there are a lot of people out there that have their blood tests, myself included, right? We have our blood tests that are sitting in a file cabinet or sitting on our desk that we got from our doctor this past year, and A1C hemoglobin is always on the list. So what would be the number they should be looking at?
It's going to depend. I believe the pre-diabetic range is somewhere under, let me see here, the pre-diabetic range, if I'm correct, it's probably over around 5.6 to 5.7. So anything higher than that is going to be definitely something that you're going to want to look into.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I think I was going to say 5.2 is somewhere where you'd be starting to be concerned about
exactly.
pre-diabetic. If you're over 5,
exactly,
your doctor's probably going to start talking to you about it.
Exactly. Yep.
So, okay. So, talking about body types and expectations, I want to give a little bit of reality check to some of the people, because I get this, and I know that I've heard you speak about this on some of your YouTube channels and other podcast interviews you've been on, where people come to you and they basically tell you they have a J-Lo body, but they want to look like Gwyneth Paltrow. You know, and so what's the conversation there? Or vice versa. Some people are very skinny, but they want Kim Kardashian's ass.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be about what's possible genetically for that person. I can tell someone, listen, we can add muscle to your frame. We can do this. We can do that. This is the rate at which it can be done. This is how much work it's going to take. I have had ectomorphs who have had fantastic transformations, but granted, it took them 3 years to get there of consistent training, consistent, eating properly. And likewise, I have had women who have been, severely overweight who've really tightened everything up. But the main thing I tell women is, okay, listen, you can lose body fat at this rate. And for a woman, the maximum a woman can lose in a week is approximately 0.5% body fat in a week. Now, if I'm on contest prep, I might be able to lose 0.8% in a week, but I give them, okay, listen, about 0.5% per week. Where are you at right now? Where are you trying to get to? And for some women who say, I want to have abs, you might be over 30% body fat. For a woman to show visible abs, you need to be between like 13 and 14% body fat. So I'll be like, look, this is how long it's going to take you to get there just to see your abs, if that's what you really want. Yeah. And I think having that reality check about that, having that reality check about how long it takes you to gain muscle. And I think another thing that actually encourages people is I'll show them examples of other women that I've trained, where they started, where they are at now, and how long it took them to get there. Because I think that sounds great on paper, but it's more compelling when you actually can see a human example of what I'm talking about.
When people come to you, I'm sure because of your past, because of all the programs, because you do have quite a bit of programs, online programs that people can purchase, and they're shorter duration programs, 12 weeks or 6 weeks. Are they coming to you for rapid weight loss, or are they coming to you for more lifestyle?
I think a lot of people really want the lifestyle approach. But when I first started, a lot of my clientele, especially when I was really into my fitness competitions, my clientele was more younger, a lot of girls wanting to diet, wanting to go from a 4-pack to a 6-pack. Now my audience has shifted a bit, and they're like, Christine, listen, I want to eat healthier. Because I preach about crash diets and why it's not healthy. So people really, they're sold that that's not the way to go. But the one thing that I notice a lot of women want, or just people in general, they want that little bit of encouragement to see that they're making some progress initially, and then they'll transition to slightly more of a lifestyle plan. So I have this program called the 6-Week Shred, which is really good to get people a nice jump start. It's not starving people. Will get safe yet effective results. But then from there, they can either start reverse dieting and transitioning into more of a lifestyle plan, a custom plan, or, they can repeat it again if they want to keep up with that higher rate. But most people are looking for a lifestyle change.
When you say reverse dieting, I've heard you talk about this before. What exactly is that?
So reverse dieting is the process of slowly adding calories back after you've been in a caloric deficit for a prolonged period of time. The significance of this is once you've been in a deficit for quite some time, your metabolism is going to drop, and you can't just go back to how you were eating. And a lot of people are like, oh, I'm done. All right, now what? And I'm like, no, you're not done yet. You have to slowly start bringing your carbs and fats back up to a maintenance level so you can sustain it. And if you don't take that step to reverse diet and just kind of shock your body, a lot of folks end up actually gaining more body fat by just going on like a hardcore binge like afterwards. And they're like, oh, I've reached my goal. Now I can just do whatever. And like, that's not it. And that's why I'm always trying to explain to people, this is a lifestyle. This is how you eat now. Yes, you can have maybe a higher calorie day here and there, but you don't just start eating and drinking all kinds of nonsense because it's a Tuesday. It's one thing if it's like your anniversary or something, or it's a holiday, but you have to make better choices overall.
Right. It seems like once people go on a crash diet and then they slowly do reverse dieting, introducing it back in. If they go back, which makes me think of The Biggest Loser, which is for every single person that ever did that, they did an insanely low calorie diet. They were in a deficit for the duration of the show if they got to stick around. And then I don't think there's one person that was ever on that show that ended up keeping it off. Or I think there was one woman, but I think she became anorexic or she had some kind of eating. I think she had some kind of eating disorder, and she was able to maintain it, but only by basically destroying her body. So that's what you recommend in terms of competition, then reverse diet. If you're talking about lifestyle change, then it's just a process of allowing your body to acclimate to the new style of eating that you are now doing. Correct?
Exactly. Yes.
So, okay. So now we've kind of covered the importance of macros. We didn't really touch too much on calories and BMR. Is there something specific we should know about that when calculating our macros?
Yeah, absolutely. So your BMR or your basal metabolic rate is the starting point. It tells you how many calories you need to consume per day to sustain your current body mass. And I kind of put a little bit of an asterisk there. So if you're currently overweight, that BMR is how many calories to stay where you're at. So some people get a little hype about this online. Well, this might be a starvation diet because it's less than my BMR, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is you need to base that off of the BMR of your goal weight. So when you start calculating your macros, you start with your BMR of where you are, how many calories you need to stay alive. You add your activity calories, and then that tells you your total daily energy expenditure. This is just how much you need to stay exactly the same. From that point, you apply a caloric deficit. And I recommend starting at around a 500 calorie deficit. That's 1 pound of body fat per week. And the thing that really frustrates me is I don't know where everyone got this thing in their head that they can lose 2 pounds per week. Everyone's like, yeah, I want to lose 2 pounds per week. That's good, right? Because fat loss isn't linear. It's just not linear. I mean, it's exponential at first, and then it's going to plateau, and then you need to tweak it again, and then it's going to plateau. And it just really frustrates me when people think they can lose 2 pounds a week, like of true body fat. Because
I think a lot of people
not realistic.
I think a lot of people in the beginning are losing a lot of water weight because they're generally, when you go on a diet, you're eating a lot less processed food, a lot less sodium, and you're probably not retaining as much water as you were prior, leading up to that, and you're just kind of peeing it all out for the next couple of days.
Absolutely, 1 gram of carbohydrates binds 2.7 grams of water. So if you were substantially, going above and beyond with your carb intake, the carbs are going to hold a certain amount of water as well. So that initial drop is mostly, like you said, some water, some salt, some carbs. You're just debloating, and that's not true fat loss. Right.
I thought it was 1 to 4. I thought it was for every gram of carbohydrates, 2.7.
Yeah, it's 2.7. Some people round up to 3, but
got it.
I try to be a little bit more accurate.
I rounded up to 4. Is that not how rounding up works? Okay. Well, okay. So that's okay. So I got it. So that's a very traditional, a lot of the conversation now. I had Mike Israetel on the show, and he's very much so in your camp around calories.
Nice.
But then I've also had, others on the show like Jonathan Baylor, or, like that he's written The Calorie Myth. Right. So there's definitely, two sides of this. Can you do me a favor? Can you argue both sides in a sense? Like, is there an argument for counting calories is not necessarily, like you even mentioned, and you didn't say this specifically, but 1,500 calories worth of potato chips is going to be different than 1,500 calories worth of chicken and broccoli. So your body's gonna metabolize those nutrients and utilize those nutrients in a different way. So in that sense, calories, it's more about what you're eating than how many calories you're consuming. So for the average person, should they pay attention to calories as much if they are going literally from an standard American diet to a more whole foods diet? Is it that important?
It is important. And a perfect example of this is when paleo got really trendy, because a lot of people started going on Whole30. And once you start, naturally cutting out dairy and gluten, for some people, that's going to cut out a lot of BS that they were consuming. And as a result, they're probably naturally going to be eating less than they were before. So if you're severely obese, and you start eating better, is that fantastic? Absolutely. However, when you have a time-sensitive, specific fat loss-oriented goal, it's not going to be good enough. I'd say for folks who have like over 50 pounds to lose or even over 25 pounds to lose, anyone in that 25 plus pound camp, that approach is perfectly fine. I think if you have about 25 pounds or less to lose, that's where calories and macros, you need to get a little bit more specific.
Okay. I see. So if you're 100 pounds overweight, maybe you don't have to focus on calories as much, just focus on the lifestyle of it. But if you want to get from 25 pounds overweight to, to basically your ideal weight where you're maybe seeing some abs and some like muscle tone, then you're going to have to get a little more dialed in.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me. Let's talk a little bit. Obviously, so there's the nutrition aspect of this, and I think that what we're also alluding to is that whenever people are talking about nutrition, you can't give a blanket statement because everybody's body is different. Everybody's metabolism is different. Body types are different, and their daily activities are different. So there's no way to say everybody should eat this. Everybody should avoid that. When it comes to working out, is that the same premise in your opinion? Is it basically some people should lift heavy, some people should do more cardio, some people should do more high intensity, some people should do more endurance style lifting? Where do you stand on that?
It depends on the person's goal. At the end of the day, in my opinion, 90% of someone's results is going to come from how they eat. So if somebody has performance-oriented goals where they want to run faster, jump farther, lift heavier, training is absolutely going to matter. The methods, the techniques, what you do, how you do it. But I think a lot of people are really doing all of this training for a more physique-oriented goal. And because if the goal is more physique-oriented, this was one of the biggest learnings I had from contest prep, was I always associated a lean body with a higher level of athletic performance. And when I was doing my contest prep, I wasn't the fastest on the treadmill. I wasn't like the heaviest lifter in the gym. I was doing what I needed to do while maintaining my caloric deficit. And I always thought that, man, if you could run a mile under this amount of time, man, you'd probably be really lean. But no, it's the person who got all those calories burned that they needed to burn within your deficit, hit those macros. And I was just so shocked that I could walk on a treadmill incline, for an hour and just sweat it out. And granted, I'm moving, but I'm not sprinting. I'm not running 6-minute miles,
Right.
And I was just so shocked that the athletic performance wasn't as crucial to me hitting my physique goal. So as far as fitness goes, I mean, it's a matter of what that person's looking to do. If they're looking to be some people love the gym. They want to be fast. They want to be stronger. Under those circumstances, I would say all of those things you're saying can definitely matter. You should tweak and do all kinds of things based off of your body type and whatnot. But I'd say the vast majority of people just want to look better naked. And they're like, what do I do?
Right. And so what you're saying is that if you really do want to look good naked, and especially if you're going to get on stage in a physique competition, it's the majority of this work is going to be paying attention to what you're consuming and less so what kind of workouts you're doing at the gym. You don't have to go and kill yourself at the gym. It's going to be important that you're paying attention to what you're doing, but at the same time, it's more about the caloric deficit. It's more about, paying attention to how your body's processing that, and then seeing how your body responds.
Exactly.
Is there, in terms of, and I know your expertise is definitely more in the nutrition aspect of this, but in terms of body type, and because I know that's something that you're definitely an expert in terms of body type, are there specific recommendations, or let's say broader recommendations for individuals who, let's say they have their endomorph and they are, carrying around an extra 40, 50 pounds for the last 10 years. And it's just like they've always just been big boned, and they feel like, is there a way in which they should be working out that would help them? Obviously there's the diet, but then help them,
absolutely
move further faster.
Absolutely. As far as endomorphs go, they are going to have to make a serious commitment to cardio. I mean, I'm talking minimum 5 times a week, every day. A minimum 5 times a week with the cardio, and they have to lift. I'd say minimum 4 or 5 times a week. I don't recommend endomorphs lifting crazy heavy. I know I have a lot of endomorph clients. Some of them really like CrossFit. That's not the best approach I would recommend. But if that keeps someone consistent and because of the social aspect, that's great. But if they're really trying to lean out and get smaller, my endomorphs have been so successful by adding long distance running. It just really leans everything out. I've had so many endomorphs just break through so many plateaus with long distance running, in addition to low weight, high rep style training.
So that's the recommendation in that sense.
Yes.
So more, high reps, low weight, just blast it out, get your sweat on, do your cardio, obviously, as often as you possibly can squeeze it in, because your goal is to burn as many calories, I would assume, as possible on a day-to-day.
Yes.
And then what about somebody who's more the ecto, the thin person, the person who's, naturally skinny?
Yeah, for my ectomorphs, I really dial their cardio all the way back. I'm talking maybe 20 minutes max, maybe 15 minutes max, 3 times a week. I really focus more of their energy on lifting heavy. I'm talking 4 to 6 reps, as heavy as you possibly can go.
Got it. So they're looking to build strength. They're looking for hypertrophy. They're looking for muscle building. And then obviously I would imagine that they're consuming a good amount of food at the same time in order to facilitate the muscle growth and to maintain the muscle growth, because they easily, I'm sure, lose it. Is it more fun for you as a coach to work with mesomorphs? Because they respond so quickly, it seems like?
Honestly, it has nothing to do with the body type. It's more about the personality. Yeah. I want a person who just doesn't have excuses, who trusts the process. And, when you sign up with a coach, you hired them to tell you what to do. And my most successful clients are the people who don't complain. They show up and they do the work. And I don't care what your body type is. When I see someone's before, I already see the after. I already know what they're capable of. It's just a matter of leading them to see what they can do, keeping them encouraged, making those tweaks throughout the week to week. So that way, they're not plateauing, but it's the people who just don't complain. And those people who don't complain are my most successful clients. Yeah.
Because they're just doing the work and there's nothing else getting in the way. I curious if you are willing to share. Do you have any straight up horror stories? I once had a guy that I was training online that paid me for 8 weeks worth of meeting twice a week in advance, because that's generally how I work anyway. You pay in advance for the 8-week package, and then they chip away at it. And if they want to upgrade or if they want to redo, then they can buy in again. But after a few sessions, I think that he just realized how much work he had to put in, and he didn't complain. He didn't send me a message. He just disappeared, completely ghosted. A lot of money, and then just went nowhere. Sent out emails, left voicemails. It was just like, hey man, is everything okay? And he just disappeared off the planet. Have you ever experienced something like that, or had some really weird clients in the past?
Oh, I got stories. So, with what you're saying though, think about gym memberships. How many people have a gym membership that they don't show up to?
Oh yeah. I know it's not about me, right? It's this, if that person is willing to just disappear from somebody who they just invested in and just go bye-bye, there's obviously something within that person that there's an issue. The same thing with gym memberships. But I always love hearing the crazy horror stories.
Yeah, no, I had a horror story where I had a client who she was following my plan. She was getting great results, but then she started dating a guy who was a bodybuilder. And he had all kinds of opinions on everything she should do, what she should eat, what she should this. And he started coming on to every single call.
Come on.
And it was just extremely intense, where she wasn't even allowed to speak.
Oh, man.
And I'll just leave it at that.
That's crazy.
I was literally debating this bro every week. like about everything she was doing. And this poor girl, I felt so bad for her because she was just in the middle of it. I mean, it was a mess. It was a mess.
There is. That's actually probably very, very common, especially for women who, because that women deal with that stuff all the time in the gym too. You're at the gym, you're working out, and then all of a sudden some bro walks up to you and starts giving you advice on what you need to do. And meanwhile, that guy is like just, soft and obviously doesn't work out very often, but he's an expert in his opinion because you're a woman.
Exactly.
That's got to be frustrating. And I imagine as a coach, and I can imagine from, coaching people, if then you were put in that position, it's got to be extremely uncomfortable because somebody's just testing you all the time. Oh,
for sure. Yeah. No, everything. It was like every week I needed to present data. It was just a hot mess.
Oh my God. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah. Sure.
You've been now moving into something different lately. You've been moving into more supplementation, creating a line of supplements, Gauge Life. You actually were kind enough to send me a jar of the vanilla whey and the chocolate whey, and I'm excited. They just came yesterday.
Nice.
Full transparency, I have not tried them yet, so I'm going to try them. I'm looking forward to trying them. They're very, which I showed it to my wife, who's a holistic nutrition counselor, and she was like, "Oh, check this out. Non-GMO, microfiltered whey isolate, natural flavors, xanthan gum, stevia. That's it. That's what's in here, which is really great because you don't get to see that very often. The one question that I'm always curious when it says natural flavors, what does that mean?
It means that there are no processed ingredients on the flavoring. Like there isn't anything in there that has been chemically modified.
Got it. Okay. Because it says like no artificial sweeteners, no artificial flavors, no banned substances, no aspartame. So this looks like one of the cleanest protein powders that I've seen in a long time. The what do they say? The proof is in the pudding. So I got to taste it. I got to make some pudding out of this and make it, make a shake out of it and taste it and see if it tastes good. But I'm assuming it's actually probably very good because protein powders, it's pretty hard to mess up the flavors these days. It seems like they all taste like crack. But okay, so what made you decide to go this route?
The difference is in what you don't see. Having worked in the dietary supplement industry for over 7 years, I have experienced the dietary supplement industry has been like the Wild West, unfortunately, where things say it's got 20 grams of protein in there, but it's only got 10.
Oh, really?
They say, oh my goodness. They say it's got this in it, but it's got that in it. And as a manufacturer, as somebody with a lab, somebody testing these products, and someone because I used to manufacture for so many brands in the past, and it'd be like, oh, I want my protein powder to taste like this. They'd send me a sample. I'd analyze it in the lab. I'm like, these nutritionals are not what it says on the label. And, but they're like, okay, but I want it to taste like that, but I want it to cost this much, and I want it to this. And there's just so much BS in the supplement industry that I don't trust anybody's brand. And my clients ask me all the time, Christine, what brand should I take? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't recommend anyone to you. And I needed to do this. I didn't want to get into supplements. I'm telling you, I didn't want to, but all of my clients kept repeatedly asking me, and I said, the only way I can recommend something is if I create it myself. And it's just, you would be shocked at the brands that have fallen under those types of circumstances.
I would imagine it would be the biggest ones, the biggest brands that have probably been around the longest because they can get away with it. There's no regulations. Nobody's testing it. Nobody's trying to disprove them. And if they do, they're probably getting buried online behind, their wake of response.
Of course.
So these companies are almost like too big to go after in the supplement world. So I get that. I get that from your perspective, coming in and just creating instead of trying to battle those people and try to get somebody to do the right thing, just create your own thing. And you have an audience, you have a following that's loyal enough to understand and know that you are going to turn out and provide something of quality that you believe in and they can believe in as well. So. That's
Absolutely.
really great.
Yeah. And one more thing on that, because the proteins, like when somebody uses a protein supplement, they don't need carbs. They don't need added fats. You can add your carbs from fruit. You can do all of that later. But like, the problem is a lot of these supplements, they're just cut with maltodextrin. They're cut with dextrose. They're cut with all the artificial flavors that if you're really trying to help someone hit their macros, you want to take all that stuff out, but they do it for margin. And that's why I've intentionally kept the carbs as low as humanly possible in all of these products.
Yeah, I mean, just so people know, like a serving is 25 grams of protein and then 1 gram of carb. I think it says 5.5 grams of BCAAs as well, which is great. I mean, this is basically as when you're looking for just protein, like straight up protein,
exactly,
and you're like searching GNC and you're going to vitamin shop, this is what you're looking for. You want something with, like, if you just want protein, that's what you can. And like you said, if you're gonna blend it, throw a half a banana in there or something like. You can get your carbs in. You can always add something else.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a really good point. I like that a lot. Okay, good. I'm really looking forward to this. And it's gluten free as well, which is really fantastic these days with everybody and their allergies. So give us a little bit of what's happening on your YouTube. Like, I know that you've got a ton of videos up there. I know you've got a great following on YouTube, very interactive. What are you doing on YouTube that you would say is different than the average nutrition or health coach?
What I like to do on YouTube is I just like to provide as much value as humanly possible. Some people have told me, like, Christine, why are you putting all this stuff out there for free? Because they're not going to need you. And I'm like, no, it's wrong. Like, and even this for anyone trying to grow an online business, you want to provide as much value as possible for credibility, because you want people to know that they're working with somebody who knows what they're talking about. So I describe exactly how to calculate your macros. I have free macros blueprints you can download, free sample meal plans you could download for keto, for budget friendly, for everything possible. Because the thing is, it wasn't until I first started creating YouTube videos that I realized how confused people are about nutrition. And I just want to be a consistent, reliable source of quality information that people can find.
I just and I think that's really admirable, and I don't know if you heard that, but I just popped up on your YouTube channel on your thing, and it has an autoplay. Your homepage has an autoplay. It just I was hoping it wasn't going to start playing right away, but
shoot,
sorry. No, that's okay. That's normal for a YouTube page. But over 253,000 followers or subscribers to your channel, and then what you're like, exactly how you're describing. It seems like every single. Is this how often are you posting? Every day? Every week?
Not every. I try to get at least 3 videos a week. Lately, I've been popping on and doing some YouTube lives. I really love doing live broadcasts just to like chat with my followers and just engage and answer questions that they have right on the spot.
Love it. Yeah. And this is so, I if anybody's a YouTube lover and just consumes, this is I watched a bunch of your videos on YouTube as well. And I really do. The latest video that you have up is the Dell's, how she lost that much weight and whether or not that was actually really healthy. Because she's lost over 100 pounds. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if anybody's curious about that, you got to check out that video. In terms of following the other places, if you're looking for the supplements, it's gagelife.com.
Correct.
Right? And then if you're looking for more training programming, it's gagegirltraining.com. Am I right about that? So, and is there anywhere else you'd like people to kind of find you and discover what you're doing?
Yeah. You guys can also follow me on Instagram at gagegirltraining. If you guys got questions, you guys can just pop in the DMs. I'm answering DMs all the time. It's almost like you're just texting me. So awesome. if you're not sure, just shoot me a DM.
Very cool. Well, Christine, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this with me today. I learned a lot, and I'm really excited to watch you grow. And I'm really excited. I'll send you a message when we finally try this way, and I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it goes, and I'll post it on my Instagram too,
awesome.
And let people know about it. But again, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
And one more time, Christine, thank you so much for coming on the show and taking the time. I had a blast chatting with you. I've been talking over the last couple episodes about leaving voicemails, asking questions, I'm very interested in trying to help you solve whatever it is that you're working on and give any kind of feedback that I can. And I really do love doing that. Even if it might not even be about fitness. It might not even be about nutrition. It might be about lifestyle. It might be about, creating habits. It might be about just, how do I even get started on any of this? And I'm happy to have a conversation around that because everybody's an individual and everybody has different needs and different struggles. So one of the ways, besides the obvious, which is emailing me, rob@openskyfitness.com, or going and checking out the Open Sky Fitness podcast page on Facebook, is to leave a voicemail on our website. And I've had this voicemail link set up on the website forever, and I never utilize it. And I never mention it on the show. And we used to mention it in the beginning. And actually, I think it's a part of my intro, but I don't discuss it in the show. But I think we're moving into a different phase here, where I think people are much more open to sharing their voice, and sharing it potentially out on the podcast. And so, what I'm hoping for is go to openskyfitness.com. On the right side, you're going to see something that says voicemail message. Click on that button. You could do it on your phone as well. And click on that button. It's going to give you an option of start recording, and you can record yourself asking us a question. I can't remember what the time limit is. I think it's about 1.5 minutes. So don't ramble too long. But and it gives you a countdown when you're recording yourself. And then you get to listen to it again. If you didn't like it, you can re-record, and then send it to us. And I will, if it's pertinent to the show, if you're just calling to say, hey Rob, I love the show, I might share that as well. I might share that on the show. It's kind of like a nice little testimonial, and I just, I'll share it on the show if that's something that you want to do. But if you have questions, if you have something that you'd like us to answer on the show, then you can leave it right there. I'll let people listen to the question, and then Devin and I will do our best at taking a crack at it and trying to help you out. But, I just wanted to point that out. That's an option if you guys would like to have your voice heard on our Open Sky Fitness podcast. And, then you can share it with your friends. Say, look at me, I'm on a podcast. So that might be fun. So I hope that you enjoyed today's episode. If you guys have any questions, hit me up, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Guys, thanks for listening to the show. Tune in next week. We have another awesome Open Sky Fitness podcast for you.
All right, thanks for listening to the Open Sky Fitness podcast. Please check us out on Instagram @Open Sky Fitness, where you can follow Rob, link to the podcast, learn about upcoming guests, and post questions for him. You can also ask us questions about your own health and fitness, and we'll try to answer them on the show. For our blog, show notes, and more information about training with Rob Dione, go to openskyfitness.com. Our music is by H. Scott Salinas. You can check him out at hscottsalinas.com. So for Rob Dione and the rest of the Open Sky Fitness team, this is Jeff Meacham saying that no matter where you are in your life, you can always be healthier. And we're here to help you get there. All right, I'm done.